Hey guys, been a while, and I've got a game for you. Truth be told, actually, I haven't been playing as much online because I actually decided to build some of my EDH decks in real life. I have a pretty old extensive collection because I've been playing the game for so long, so building the foundation of a lot of EDH decks is relatively trivial. It's more about acquiring kind of contemporary stuff versus the old things, which is generally the big obstacle for a lot of people who try to build these decks in real life. You're often just kind of sweating having to acquire a single underground sea or a single tundra or something like that. And I happen to be lucky enough to have piles of those lying around from the good old days. Anyway, I'm up against Ruhan here, and I am playing, ta-da, Oloro. You might be able to guess that looking at my hand, although with the exception of Sunken Ruins, you could draw this hand with just about every deck that I play with. So here we go. Lucky enough to win the die roll as well. Got Well of Lost Dreams off the top. Playing Sensei's Divining Top. He's just got a Thicket. So turn 2 here, I'm actually kind of faced with a bit of a dilemma. Play a second land and wait to guard with Mana Leak or Remand, or play the Ever-Flowing Chalice and use it to top for the upcoming turn. There's definitely good reasons to play both, but against any deck with green in it, I'm really nervous about the turn 2 Sylvan. And so I decide that it's probably worth it here for me to sit back on Mana Leak mana in case he does have the Sylvan Library, because it's a way to kind of lose a game right out of the gate. And with Remand, I have the ability to draw an extra card as well. So ultimately I elect to do that just to defend. And if he doesn't do anything, of course, I can use the top anyway and go get a third land. Fairy Conclave, alright. So I'm a little bit punished for not making the Chalice because he has no play at all. But that won't matter, right? Because there'll be 3 land on top of my deck waiting for me. Top reveals Forbid, Terminus, Mind Twist. No land at all. So my decision to not play the Chalice could not be any worse. And now, unfortunately, I have to just play the Chalice for 1 and use it in the hope that underneath that Terminus is a land. We'll see. Or I guess under the, yeah. And there's a Teferi Temporal Archmage. That's not really a land. So now this hand, which looked completely serviceable before, is suddenly starting to look pretty bad. Hopefully it just doesn't do anything. Soul Ring, of course. Naturally, he'd have Soul Ring on the turn that I tap out and can't Mana Leak, just to compound my problems. There's a Forbid. At least that's some moderate defense, using some of the more clunky things in my hand, if he does go for a Planeswalker. So there's a Talisman on top, as well as the Teferi and the Terminus still. So I'm going to hopefully just be able to draw a card either with the Remand or Mana Leak, depending on what he does, and get that Talisman out to get up to 4. That's a lot. That looks like Ruhan mana, but nope, it's Gilded Lotus, and obviously this is an opportune time. As much as I would actually want to Remand here, I feel that it's better to Mana Leak, given the fact that I may not be able to stop the Lotus from coming out, and the Mana Leak may run out of value very quickly against a lot of land. So I'm just going to use it now, and it takes out something that's really excellent. And I know that, obviously, I know that drawing a card here is not going to change anything immediately as well, because the top of my deck sucks, and I know what I'm playing next turn anyway. I'm just going to do that. And I'm tapping the, obviously tapping this over the island to protect myself from strip mines and stuff. Or not strip mine, but wasteland specifically. Kind of just really on the back foot here. Not drawing land for 3 or 4 turns is often fatal. Alright, 5 mana. Freelise, Llanowar's Fury. Something has a bad +2 ability. Well, not a bad, but not great. But it's that second ability that I literally cannot let resolve right now. I cannot afford to lose any artifacts or enchantments. So that means we're just going to Remand it. And hope he doesn't have a counter, and he doesn't. That's really nice too, because it digs me a little further. Top card is Terminus now. So I'm about to do something that I never ever do when I have Divining Top in play, which is top during upkeep. So many people like to do this, and generally it's incorrect. Unless, of course, you know that the top card of your deck is Terminus, and you absolutely do not want to draw it. And God, Future Sight, Terminus, Fact or Fiction, all great cards, but not at the moment. So So I'm going to put Factor Fiction on top. So really, really far behind here now. I guess I have more cards in hand slightly, but way out-maned. There's Freely's again, so we're just going to have to counter and pray. The one thing I have going for me is that he's down to 3 cards in hand, and I have pretty good fodder for my Forbid. I don't see Teferi and Karn being resolved anytime soon. This is a situation where obviously both of these cards have comeback power, but I feel like the lower cast cards in my hand serve that purpose as well. Even if I get the Lotus out and I can play one of these guys, I feel that that's a little bit greedy and that I'd rather just shore up my early game, given that I still haven't seen any land on top. So I could potentially be turn after turn after turn even from getting the Lotus into play. I can't take that for granted. So ditching these things right now over something that's not necessarily as powerful, but has more of a short-term gain is something I feel is worth it. Very painful to give up both Karn and Teferi, of course, but got to do whatever I can to survive. Sword of Feast and Famine, which is a problem with Fairy Conclave in play, but what can I do? I don't have any white mana yet to do top Terminus if he does go for that play. Alright, so I know I'm drawing Future Sight. And I'm not topping during upkeep here because of the fact that I kind of want to just end the turn and Factor Fiction at the end of the turn. Although, yeah, so there's an Ancient Tomb, which is super nice actually to have on top. Now that allows me to get Gilded Lotus down. And I'm just going to twist the last 2 cards out of his hand and accept a hit from the Fairy Conclave. And assume he's just going to cast his Ruhan, because I know that I can Terminus it during my turn. Although I probably wouldn't, honestly. What I would probably do, he discards Genesis Wave and Forest. What he'd probably do, what I would probably do is wait for him to likely equip his Fairy Conclave during attack step. And no, actually, I guess Terminus he could protect it with Ruhan. But you know he can't target it with as long as it's got sword on it. So interesting things could happen there. But probably no reason to do the Terminus right away when I can just do it on his turn with the top and protect it with Forbid. Alright, he's hitting me here. So he's had 1 turn to draw something. The question is, what is he going to get? Yeah, Tamiyo, the Moon Sage. That is not what I want to see, especially when my only source of white mana is the Lotus. So it locks down the Lotus, which is really unfortunate. At least I still have the Divining Top going. And now I'm just going to make this play. Let's go Future Sight. I know that Terminus is there. And regretfully, I'm just going to draw it. Just to use the extra mana to draw a card. I could have ordered those cards definitely better, although I expected to be able to use the Lotus because he didn't have Tamayo at that point. I kind of wanted Terminus right on top, but in retrospect, it was probably a mistake to do that because I can always just Terminus top on his turn. I don't want to risk something going wrong and me drawing the Terminus. If you were to, say, do something to the Divining Top, with like a Crimson Grip or whatever. I'm going to get hit here again. It's a little tough to decide what to throw away. But ultimately I decided Factor Fiction. Given that I've got top Future Sight, Factor Fiction is a little bit redundant. I can pay 5 mana to draw 5. I don't have to select them, even though it's effectively at sorcery speed. He doesn't even play his Guy, which is very interesting given the fact that, I mean, he saw me draw the Terminus, but the fact that I have access to no white mana at all, and he has nothing, I mean, short of me copying the Gilded Lotus somehow and using it right away to Terminus his Guy. So there's a source of white, and there's another source of white. We're just going to sack it, though, because we don't even really need it. Humility shows up. Another awesome double white thing that I can't cast right now. Let me stick this somewhere better. Let's just resize you and put you over here. Alright, but we've got Terminus, or we've got top Future Sight out. So maybe a little Strip Mine. That's quite nice, actually. Sadly, I don't have the ability to play land, but the Strip Mine is good protection against his Fairy Conclave in a turn. So I'm just going to pad my hand a little bit. Oh, Copy Artifact. That's very interesting. So I have the option, of course, of casting Copy Artifact and copying Gilded Lotus. The problem with that play is that Tamiyo's ability not only keeps something tapped, but it taps it in the first place. So he could tap my Lotus and reduce me down to 1 blue mana. And it seems like, obviously, he could do that to one of these lands or my artifact as well. But at least if I represent 3 mana here, and it makes him tapping one of my 3 lands a much more dubious play over. Although I guess he's seen all of my draw steps. He knows I have the Forbid, and he's seen me draw these 4 cards, so he definitely knows that my counterspell costs 3 if he's paying full attention, although at this point it might have been easy to lose track of that. But I figure leaving 3 mana up, I don't really need to play the Copy Artifact right now, and leaving 3 mana up represents more of a counter threat and less of an obvious thing to tap than casting a copy of my Gilded Lotus while nearly tapping out, because he could reduce me down to 1 mana, and there aren't too many 1 mana counters. So if you were to top deck something gnarly, like let's say, I don't know, Austere Command, or I don't know, there's a lot of cards you could top deck. A card drawing spell, for example, I would not be able to counter it, so I'm just going to let it sit there and represent counter mana, even if that means getting hit by Conclave, which is, again, fine. I can just throw away the Command Tower. So let's see what he's drawn. He drew Brago, King Eternal, which I don't care about at all because I have Humility and Terminus in my hand. And I know that I'm going to be able to copy the Lotus no matter what he does. So I'm going to be able to Terminus away the board, or just cast Humility, which shrinks Bragos down to almost nothing. So end step, let's use the Future Sight. There's the swords on top. Demur Signet, Copy Artifact. Let's just throw the swords up there and get rid of Brago, since I can just strip mine the Fairy Conclave. And seeing that, my opponent scoops it up, as well he should. Pretty fantastic comeback given the way the situation was in the early going when I had so few lands out against Sol Ring and a bunch more mana. But as this deck tends to do, it just stitches together a few key combos that can often just result in flipping the game over right away. And this is one of the most powerful synergies that exists in all of EDH, and especially in this deck. Hope you guys enjoyed that game, and I will hopefully have more down the road if I can pry myself away from the real-life EDH tables at the nearby card shop. See you guys later.